Shalom, Israel. We the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Start out on 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohana. It's the Friday night Lashawan Qadash class where we break down the scriptures from a linguistics perspective, something that your Christian pastor is ill-equipped to do. I'm lying. Yeah, no, you talk, no, sir. So, yeah. But something that your Christian pastor is ill-equipped to do because your Christian pastors, if you know what I mean, I know we've been going over it for the past couple of days in KILLEEN, but your Christian pastors are commissioned to teach Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans lies. I mean, that's the origin of the Christian church. You can do this research yourself. You can read books. You can, you know what I mean, this is public knowledge. You know what I mean, this is public information that you can find out. I mean, if you don't know already, but the Christian church was set up by your oppressor to put Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in charge of other Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to teach them lies. You know what I mean, so your Christian pastor won't teach you. They won't teach you the truth according to the Bible. They won't teach you the that you are the chosen people of the Most High God, the children of Israel. They won't teach you that. They won't teach you the language of that the Bible was written in the Old Testament. They won't teach you the Hebrew language, and they won't teach you that your oppressor is the devil. The Bible speaks of, because they were put in position by your oppressor to teach you these lies. You know what I mean? So that's why we teach this class every Friday, to teach you what your Christian pastor will never be able to teach you. I mean, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that what's it called? That QR code in the corner. If you want to continue whatever conversation that occurs in this class or in any other class, if you want to continue that conversation, go ahead and hit that concordance, or not concordance code, so like that QR code in the corner. It'll take you to our WhatsApp chat. I think it might take you to, you know what I mean, or you can, you know what I mean, you could just go to any of our links for any other. We're on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or I believe it's called X now, Instagram, TikTok. We're on all platforms. You know what I mean? So where you can see all our content and all our classes as well. All right. But tonight, this class, if you're in the ISUPK, if you're familiar with how our classes go, our Lashawan Qadash classes are on Friday night, and then our Sabbath services on Saturday. So Friday night we break down the scriptures in the Hebrew. We'll read it. We're able to read it in the English and the Hebrew, compare it, find out what words mean, things like that. In the in Saturday Sabbath service, we read the scriptures in the Hebrew and then we read it in the English. All right. So we just read it through. We take what we learned Friday night and then apply it Saturday in Sabbath service. All right. So tonight is a good opportunity for you to be able to go through what we're going to go into for Saturday tonight. So if you got any questions pertaining to Sabbath service, then now is a good time to get them out, to get them answered, and to go into anything that you may not understand, or to practice. I mean, it's a good time to practice, to just read through it, read through the Hebrew, see where you at with it, and then apply it on Saturday. All right. So last week we left off on Genesis 42 and 22. That's where we left off. We're gonna be picking up Genesis 42 and the 23rd verse, and we're gonna just kind of read through again. If you got any questions or comments, feel free, and we're gonna go ahead and get through with it. Make sure you got your learning utensils with you, your notes. You should have, at this point, we've been doing Lashawan Qadash class in Killeen, Texas for the past 2 years, for almost 3 years. Yeah. Well, we started 2020. I think we started before 2022, just a little bit before, or a little bit before. I'm thinking of Passover, Salakia. But uh, well, we started, I believe, at the end of 2021, going into 2022. So we almost 3 years in. So you should have a bountiful notebook full of notes and classes that we went over, and that's what we're gonna go over tonight. So before we get started, actually there's a couple. Well, I'll just go through it. Tonight I'll just run through it and just to show you what I'm talking about moving forward. Um, Moving forward, we'll go through a list of sight words that you should be able to recognize from the scriptures that we're gonna be reading, and then we'll go over those first so you can have an idea of what you're gonna be seeing, and then we'll read it. But right now, we're just gonna go through like we've been going through. But I said that to say there should be there's gonna be some words that you're gonna see that you should be familiar with. All right, and then when we run into those words like we've been doing for the past couple weeks, we'll go over them. We'll talk about them, why you should know what these words are. You know what I mean, and the main reason why you should know what these words are that we're about to go over is because of your notes. You know what I mean? All right, so make sure you got your notes. Make sure you got your concordance. Make sure you got Bible Hub open to the interlinear section. Go to Genesis 42 and 23. That's where we're going to be starting at. You might need your Hebrew to English dictionary as well. You might need just make sure you got your all your learning utensils. I mean, if you in the school, we got all the learning utensils on the bookshelf, but you should have those learning utensils in your personal possession as well. All right. Remember, as I share my screen, let me go ahead and let me just go to it real quick. You should also have remember as we go over this, we're going to be following as we read in the Hebrew. We're going to be following these same 4 steps. These same 4 steps that we always follow while reading the Lashawan Qadash. So you're gonna when you're reading any phrase in the Lashawan Qadash, you're gonna see a root word, a preposition, a possessive, and a tense. It could be in any order. You can have just a root word by itself. It could be a root, or it could just be a root word with a preposition, root word with just a possessive, a root word with both, a root word with just a tense, a root word with a preposition and a tense. Any combination of those 4 steps. But those are going to be the 4 things that you're going to be looking out for while you're reading the Lashawan Qadash. All right. And then you're also going to want to look out for these concepts. If you learn the concepts and if you start off with the 4 steps and then you just learn the concepts, the 4 steps is just so you can break down the phrases. The concepts is so you can kind of add some root words to your vocabulary. So we just went over past tense in the past classes. So those nuances that you'll see attached to the root word or those, things like that, you'll be able to recognize that if if you have your notes with you. What else? Or, the topics that we covered, the topics and the concepts we covered, like numbers, ordinal numbers, cardinal numbers, color, shapes, the prayers, the what's it called, the hakak, the prayer for the power or the ability, which is what hakak means, the ability. Psalms 121, Psalms 83, the words that you see in the Lord's Prayer, the things that we see in Sabbath service, the words that you see in the prayers that we do at the beginning and the end of Sabbath service. You should be able to recognize those words and be able to, you'll be able to recognize them in the scriptures and be able to apply them when you see them. All right. And that'll help you. That'll help you out a lot, especially during Sabbath service when you're reading. Like if you ever been reading, if you ever read the Lashawan Qadash, if you read the Hebrew during Sabbath service, it can be a tedious thing. It can be very discouraging, especially if you're not familiar with the Lashawan Qadash. But if you just put the work in, if you just take the notes and familiarize yourself with the Lashawan Qadash, then it won't be so tedious. It won't be a big deal. You know what I mean? And a lot of times you'll be able to read the Lashawan Qadash just like you read English. Like you're not going over each letter in every English word to be able to build each word and then move on to the next, like we do with the Lashawan Qadash. You just recognize the phrase and you just read right through it. You just say the cat ran from the dog, or you know what I mean? Ask all your questions in our new WhatsApp. Like you know what I mean? You just read it right on through. Like you don't stop phrase by phrase because we're familiar with each and every word. You can be the same way with the Lashawan Qadash if you are diligent. All right. But all right, we're gonna get right into it, Salakia. So I'm gonna go ahead and read it straight through. So this is the book of Genesis, chapter 42 and 23. I'm gonna read it through in the Hebrew, then we're gonna break it down in the English. Waham la'ah ya yadaiwa kaya shamai yawasap kaya ha salakia hamalaya yataza by bayan thumb. All right. We will break it down line by line. Let me make sure I got it all on the screen. All right. So wa hum, very simple phrase. All right. Wa is a preposition. You should have your prepositions, especially your prepositions, possessives, and the four steps. All right. You should at least have those at the forefront of your notes. So each and every preposition and possessive and the four steps, you should have it at the forefront of your notes because that's what you want to commit to memory. You don't want to always have to go into your notes and have to look at these things. It's the simplest thing to understand. All right. And the reason why I said that is, you know what I mean, that'll help you, or that'll help this be very simple, and that'll help you be able to just recognize things off of sight. So, for example, right? So, why is just a preposition that means and, right? That'll be in your notes. So, why every time you see why at the beginning of a root word, that just means and. Hum is how you would say them or they or them in the Hebrew, right? You'll see it in let me see. Let me see if I'm gonna pull it up on the screen as well. So it should be on the screen. It's just a picture of the board. So what is it? It's a lock here. So Anya means I, Tha means you, uh he mean Hawa'a is he, Haya'a is she, Anak Noah is we, a thumb is y'all, and hum is them. All right. If you familiarize yourself with those words, then I mean you can add those to your notes and just familiarize yourself. And if you commit that to memory, then certain things like what we just read, the first phrase in the Genesis 42 and 23, it won't be so tedious. So wahum and they and them, right? Click on this concordance code as well. It'll tell you the same thing I just told you. So hum is they, them, or those, right? Wahum is and they or and them, depending on the context. So waham la'a yadaiwa. So la'a means no or not, or it means to just negate. It means to negate something. So the thing that la'a is negating, or basically negate just means to be the opposite of. All right. So la'a yadaiwa, yadai, which is this phrase or this root word right here. Yadai means no, or no, like to have knowledge. Yadai means to know. So la'ayadai means to not know, right? So yadai wa at the end of a root word means he, his, or it. In this case, it means it. So they not know it, right? That's the literal translation. But yadaiwa, la'a yadaiwa means not know it, right? Kaya just means that. You click on the concordance code, it'll tell you that exact same thing. For, because, when, if, surely, indeed, that. All right. That. Right. Let me just think of how to explain this. Like let me think. Let me think of a sentence. It's like it'll come to me. I'll go back to it. And it'll pop up in later. It'll it'll pop up in a later sentence as well. But I'll come back to that. But there's also the reason why I wanted to point that out is because there's another way to say that. But that you might see hawa'a, meaning that, but that's talking about like that thing, like you're identifying a thing like that incense burner, that camera, that lion, that you know what I mean, that oil, that scroll. Uh this that kaya is more uh it's more vague. It's like I didn't know that you needed or something like that. Yeah, I didn't know that. Like it's not really specifying anything in particular. That kaya. Right, that's the best way I can explain it. Again, it'll probably come up later, and I might have a better way to explain it. But that's the best way I can explain it for right now. So, hawa'a is talking about a particular thing. Kaya is just talking about just like I didn't know that, like an idea, like I didn't know that, like what you know what I mean, uh, like a breakdown or something like that. Like I didn't know that breakdown. I didn't know that idea, or I didn't think of that. Shamai means to hear, right? To hear, listen, obey, right? So, wahom la'a yadaiwa kaya shamai, but but they not understand it that uh, listen, Yawasap, which is Joseph in the Hebrew, Kaya, uh, and again, you click on this concordance code, it'll tell you for, because, when, if, surely, indeed, that. All right. We'll, if we, Lord willing, we'll see another example of that I was talking about earlier, and it'll make the clear distinction. Uh, ha mala yataza is la lawataza is. Let me see. Let's see. Actually, let's read it in English real quick. That is the book of Genesis, chapter 42 and verse 23. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. Let me see. Oh, okay. So in the so what we read last week. So um, Joseph's brothers are now in Egypt, and they talking to Joseph, trying to get some, you know what I mean, something to sustain them, because the what's it called, the famine that he prophesied would come through Egypt for 7 years, it came. So now everybody around is trying to come to get some food, and lo and behold, his brothers came through as well from Canaan. And verse 22 says, and Reuben answered him, saying, spake I not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. and they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. So Joseph was speaking to his brothers with an interpreter. So instead of speaking to them directly, he would speak to the interpreter. The interpreter would talk to his brothers, and the brothers would speak to the interpreter. The interpreter would speak to Joseph, and so that's how the conversation was going. You know what I mean, so his brothers didn't even know that he even understood what they were saying. Uh, Verse 24, and he turned himself about from them and wept and returned to them again and communed with them and took from them Simeon and brought and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn and to restore every man money into his sack and to give them provision for the way. And thus he did unto them. All right. So from what we read in Sabbath service last week, uh, Joseph is requiring that Joseph is requiring that before he can serve them, that he makes sure that that they bring the youngest one, that they bring the youngest brother before Joseph. I mean, you want to make sure he alive and all of that. But whole time Joseph know that them his brothers, but his brothers don't know that that's him. So I mean, he dealing with this in a way. I mean, he dealing with this in subtlety, but you know what I mean, he knows who these people are. But lock it. So that's what you see here. And that's the thing about Friday night too. Like you can read it in English, get the context. You know what I mean, read the English words. So now when you read you read it in English and then you read it in the Lashawan Qadash, and now you know what words you should expect to see. You know what I mean, that'll help you be able to retain some information. That'll help you retain some sight words. Because a lot of these words, to be honest, should be sight words because of the topics we didn't cover. I mean, we didn't cover the body parts. We didn't cover the numbers, ordinal numbers, cardinal numbers. We didn't cover some brothers didn't covered colors, shapes. We didn't cover the what's it called, the pictographs, which every character has a pictograph associated with it. So that's 20, at least 20, 22 sight words. Uh, all the topics that we didn't cover. What's it called? The nations, of the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 or the 18 nations that that the 12 or it's like the 18 heathen nations. What else? Uh, but any of those topics, that's where you get your sight words from, and just reading the scriptures. Like you read the scriptures in the Lashawan Qadash during Sabbath service. Some words should just be common knowledge. Like the word that we use constantly with one another, like Khan, La'ah. Like we just saw La'ah. Let me share the screen on Bible Hub. We just read La'ah. That was the second phrase in the what we just read in the scripture that we just read. La'ah should be a sight word. Khan should be a sight word, which I believe that's going to be at the end of this phrase or this scripture that we're reading. Khan, La'ah, the water, Ayandabar, which both of those are two separate words. So Ayan is a word which means nothing, and then the bar means speak. So you should recognize the bar. You should recognize Ayan when you see it. You should recognize, all these things. Baba Kasha, Ak, Akyum, Akwath. You know what I mean? All those words, you should recognize all those things just because we use it constantly with one another. But that'll help you. That'll help you out. All right, so we're gonna read on. So Waham La'ah, Yadaiwa, Kaya, Shamai, Yawasap Kaya, Ha, Hama Layataza, which means interpreter. Ma Salakia, my Salakia Bayan, Salakia, Bayan Thumb. So interpreter between Bayan means between. You click on this concordance code, it'll say that right here. between, among, interval, space. So the English says he spoke to them. The literal translation is between them. So bayan means between, thumb means them, right? It's real simple. Like what you realize, like a lot of, I ain't gonna lie, like a lot of brothers and sisters kind of get discouraged with the Lashawan Qadash because it's a language that we not familiar with, and we already got to learn. I mean, we got to learn Spanish when we go to our jobs. We got to be bilingual. I mean, especially our Hispanic brothers and sisters, where they come over across the border, or they, what I mean, they raised by Hispanic parents, and then they got to learn English. I mean, so you already got to learn English, which is an impossible language because they don't. Most people that speak English don't even understand English. But you got to learn English and you got to retain Spanish, and then, what I mean, some people, I mean, trilingual, and, I mean, they learn English, Spanish, French, German. You got to learn all these languages, and then now you got to learn Hebrew, a language that's an ancient Hebrew. Like your oppressor uses Yiddish, where they speak their version of Hebrew that they didn't bastardize. So the version of Hebrew that you're learning, the authentic Hebrew, I mean, that's not even in use today. So it might be hard to find some incentive to learn your language. So brothers and sisters may get discouraged as they learning, but but so, what I mean, brothers and sisters might not show up to class. Brothers and sisters might not study the Lashawan Qadash, but it's a very simple language to learn. It's very simple. All right. But if you just stick with it, what I mean, I've seen it before, what I mean, within a couple weeks, if you just stick with it, within a couple weeks, brothers and sisters get it. Like I've seen brothers walk in through the door. I mean, Aitas Agabar, I've seen him his first day. I mean, he walked through the door, and I told him to download the Bible Hub app. He downloaded it. I told him where to go. He went there. I told him what book, chapter, and verse we was in. He went there, and then I showed him exactly what I start off every class with. I showed him the 4 steps that we use to break down phrases, and I showed him the prepositions, possessives, which is always on the board. And he just read it. You know what I mean? I've seen many brothers do that. I've seen many brothers who were stumbling over the Hebrew, who didn't know it, and now they just just efficient in it. You know what I mean? I've seen many brothers in Killeen and outside of the zone. I've seen many brothers do it. It only takes a couple weeks, but you just got to be diligent, and you just got to be diligent with it, and you know what I mean, like the scriptures say, faith without works is dead. You know what I mean? The same reason why the disciples couldn't cast that demon out of that brother, but Christ could. He said, because you don't have faith. You know what I mean? He's saying that they didn't put the work in. The reason why they couldn't cast that demon out was because they didn't put the work in. It's the same with the Lashawan Qadash. If you put the work in, then you'll be able to understand the Lashawan Qadash. And if you don't understand the Lashawan Qadash, it's because you just haven't put enough work in. But it's really that simple. This language is really simple, and it belongs to us. They talk just like us. You know what I mean? The way we use slang, the way we use comparisons, and what's it called, and I mean things like that. The way we talk is the same way the Lashawan Kodash is spoken. Where you might say that that's a snake. You know what I mean? That don't mean that that's a snake. You know what I mean? That don't mean that that's a slithering serpent on the ground. That means that brother can't be trusted. That sister can't be trusted. You know what I mean, if a brother say, you know what I mean, same with the Lashawan Kodash. If you read the Lashawan Kodash and it's in the English, it might say, uh, uh, something about smoke. Like there was smoke, right? That might be a different word than, you know what I mean. In the Lashawan Kodash, it might be a different word than if you were to say, "Oh, this brother want all the smoke," like Captain Zarek, he'd say, "I want all the smoke." You know what I mean? That's gonna be a totally different. It's gonna be a totally different word, or it's gonna be a totally different meaning. You know what I mean? That's exactly how the Lashawan Kodash is spoken. or we just use certain things to compare to compare to other things. All right, so it's just as easy it is as it is for us to understand one another when we use slang. We go to a different city and we can understand one another when we use different slang. It's the same with the Lashawan Qadash. Right. It's like you ain't had your hand up or anything, did you?
Oh no, I was, I was gonna say just a quick note,
Oh,
like,
please, yeah.
Slocky, uh, the Native American brothers, saying, so-called the Latin tribes, so-called Latino tribes, they were speaking a form of Hebrew, you know,
God,
it sounds while this brother right here is reading out the Hebrew, it sounds a lot like how Native Americans talk,
God,
how wild and and stuff like that. So
God.
that's all I want to say.
No, absolutely correct. What you said was so heavy, and that's what that kind of us understanding this language is gonna bridge the gap between uh blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Like that's the common denominator between us. The Hebrew, this culture. I mean, that's why you know what I mean. During Monday scripture breakdown, I believe it was a sister. Uh, she said that the Hispanics aren't the Hebrews. The Hebrews are only black people.
Right,
I mean, that's the reason why we believe that is because we don't realize how similar our cultures are.
right,
You know what I
right.
mean, so that's why we went into Monday scripture breakdown. We went into you know what I mean, we went into how the so-called African Americans went into captivity or on ships in 1619, whereas the Hispanics and Native Americans went on ships in 1492. They went in captivity almost you know what I mean, almost two or
Yep.
over a millennia
Yep.
before we went into captivity. You know what I mean, and we still deny them the the fact that they belong to the 12 tribes of Israel. We deny them the birthright. We deny them the respect of being an Israelite and the you know what I mean, the respect of being our brother, because we don't know that, like the brother said, they were speaking Hebrew when Christopher Columbus came over in 1492 to you know what I mean, see to colonize America.
Right,
That's why he
right.
came over with a Hebrew interpreter named Louis de Terra.
Yep.
That's why he came over with that interpreter who was efficient and fluent in the Hebrew, the Lashawan Qadash, because the Hispanics and the Native Americans that was already over here before the African Americans were speaking Hebrew. When you know what I mean, when they came over, you know what I mean, they heard the credo of the Reubenites or the Reubenites and the Gadites that was already over here. They said Shema Yasha Allah Shema Yasha Allah
Right.
Yahweh Yahweh Salakia Allah now Yahweh Akkad, which means, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." That's how they greeted one another. I mean,
Creed.
Khan. And the Reubenites knew that their brothers, I believe what's the Hebrew for Puerto Rican, the Hebrew for the Puerto Rican tribe, Salakia,
Ephraim.
Ephraim,
Oh yeah, apart. Right.
Aparium, Salakia. They knew that their brother Ephraim was over in the island of Puerto Rico. I mean, they said, "I'm from the tribe of Reuben."
Mm.
They identified themselves by their tribe, not by their the names that they gave themselves or whatever. Uh, they identified themselves by their Hebrew tribe. They said, "I'm from the tribe of Reuben, and my brother from the tribe of Ephraim is across the ocean."
Mm.
We knew who we were.
Right.
We were speaking our language. We were keeping our culture. I believe the Green Corps Festival that they kept around the time of uh
Uh,
I believe when they first not
First
Thanksgiving,
fruit. First fruit.
I believe it's either the first fruits or it might be the Passover. I can't remember. You might be right though. I believe you. But that's around the same time of one of our feast days. You know what I mean? They were keeping some of the feast days. You know what I mean? You check out the garments that they wore, they had
Right.
fringes down to the floor. They had the shield of David
Right.
on their garments.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? They you know what I mean? You look at you just it's written all over the culture, the Hispanics and Native Americans. It's written all over their culture. You know what I mean? So for us to deny them the brotherhood that comes with them being our brother, I mean, it's absolutely wrong and incorrect. But the reason why we don't know is because we don't have our language, we don't have our history, and we don't have this culture. But what unifies us, to bring it back full circle, what unifies us is this culture and this language that we're teaching. You know what I mean? So I know it's something that's easy to, you know what I mean, put by the wayside and kind of not take so seriously, but you should take this seriously if you love your brother.
Right.
But we're gonna get right back to it. Let me see where we left off at. So we're gonna pick up book Genesis chapter 42 and verse 24. Wayasab Ma'al Yahum Waya Wayabaka Waya Wayashab Al Hum Waya Dabar. It's like I'm reading real slow because I want to emphasize again, we're using the same four steps. So I'm just emphasizing, I'm breaking up and emphasizing, separating the steps. All right. So it's a prefix followed by a root word, or a root word followed by a suffix or a possessive, or it might just be a root word, or you know what I mean. I'm just trying to separate it for you. So where were we at? Waya, Dabar, Al Hum, Waya, Kwak, Ma Thumb, Ath, Shamaiwan, Waya, Asar, Ath, Wa, La'ai, La'ayan, Yahum. All right, so we're gonna break this down we're gonna break it down step by step. We're gonna kind of go through it real quick just so we can get through it. See how much time we have. All right. So Waya Sab. All right, let's click the concordance code. So sabab is the root word, all right, which means to turn, to surround, to encircle, to encompass. All right. Now this is what I was talking about with the what's it called, with the topics, the what's it called? I said a word. I can't remember what it is, but it'll come to me later. But the the concepts, right? So you understand these concepts. You focus in on these particular topics, because when brothers teach Lashawan Qadash class and they go into specific words rather than reading the Hebrew, they go into specific topics. So they'll break it up into topics. So they'll go into colors, they'll go into shapes, they'll go into numbers, they'll go into the uh the pictographs, they'll go into these particular topics. This is one of them. So Sab comes from Sabab, which so to which so Sab or Sabab. So of course, when you're reading the Lashawan Kodash, when you add prepositions or possessors, certain letters or certain characters drop off just to avoid redundancy.
Right.
So instead of Sabab, they'll say Sab. They'll just drop that last ba off because it repeats itself. Uh, so sab or sabab means to turn, or to encompass, or to circle, right? So that's why the word for circle is sabayab, which is turn or turning, or turn, like it rather. So sabayab is circle. You know what I mean? When a brother, I believe some brothers from Houston, a brother from UK, brothers all over who teach Lashawan Qadash in every zone. They went over the shapes. We haven't personally done a lesson over shapes yet in KILLEEN. We might do one soon. I kind of want to some other things that I kind of want to go over, but we might, you know what I mean? I'll just do it. Slack. I'll just go ahead and just do it. But brothers, you know what I mean? Since we haven't gotten to it yet, you can check out these brothers from the cities that I just named, from Houston, from the UK. Any brother who has already knocked out the lesson, you can just look it up. UP or ISUPK Lashawan Qadash shapes, and then it'll pop up, and then you can add that to your notes. So when we do the lesson in Killeen, you'll be prepared. But so the word for circle is sabayab, I believe. If I'm saying it right, sabayab. A circle. It comes from this word right here, sab or sabab, or it's just sabab. It's just sabab with a ya in the middle, which is how you say past tense in a general sense. Now we went over past tense in this particular sense where you're talking about a particular perspective. I, you, he, she, we, y'all, or they. But if you're not talking about a particular perspective, uh, if you're just talking in the general sense, uh, then it'll just have a ya in the middle, and that'll mean past tense. All right. So, and he turned himself away. All right. Waha sab. Right. And Salakia. Actually, this might be an example of what we just had on what we just shared on the screen from what's on the board, because it says he turned, and when you say he in past tense, there's no conjugation. So if you say I turned, it'll be sab thaya. If you say you turned, it'll say sab the. If you say he turned, there's no conjugation. All right. So it'll just be the word, which is sab or sabab. All right. So waha sab, and he turned, right? Ma'al yahum. Ma'al, I believe, I'm gonna take a guess from memory, right? And I'm doing this on purpose. I what you want to do, especially during Sabbath service, is you want to test your memory. You want to remember what you learned. So I'm gonna test my memory right now. So ma'al, I believe ma'al means from my memory, from my vague memory, I believe my owl means from, and I'm looking at the context clues. So the English in the red, it says from them. I know yahum. I know hum means them. So I can only assume if I didn't have a memory, I can only assume that my owl means from. But I'm gonna test that. All right. So you can test that by clicking the concordance code, which is the importance of coming to class. On, upon, over, against, concerning, because of, by, beside. Right. Right. And all of those things mean from or against, rather. So it's saying Jacob turned from them or away from them, against, beside, above, over, upon. Right. So Ma'al, Yahum. So from them or against them. So he turned against them. Right. That's why it says in the Hebrew or in the English here, and he turned himself away. So he turned away from them. And what? Wayabaka. Right. Now this is what you will want to do. This is why reading in advance is important, right? So you'll want to click the or like if you were just reading it, you will want to pronounce it Wayabak. That's how you will want to pronounce it, because it ends with a ka, and you know when you're reading the Lashawan Qadash, you often just pronounce the last two characters together. So instead of baka, you pronounce it bak. But that's not the case here, because you click on the concordance code, the root word is baka. And this is just applying a concept that I explained earlier. So when you add prepositions, possessive, root words, or preposition, possessives, tenses, things like that, that extra character drops off. So that ha at the end, you won't write it, but you will pronounce it. because it's implied. Because Abba, Gada, Ha, Waza, Kata, Yaka, all the Hebrew characters implied that Ha at the end. So Abba, Gada, Ha, Waza, right? So Waya Baka, because the root word is Baka, right? So even though that Ha isn't at the end, you'll still pronounce it that way. Baka means to weep. Let me see. Let me make sure I'm correct. To weep, cry, to lament. All right. Waya Baka. So he's dealing with his brothers with subtlety. He's dealing with them, and he's trying to be wise in how he deals with them. He's trying to be subtle with them because he's under Pharaoh. He's amongst his enemy, and he's got his family here, and his family don't recognize him, and his family also sold him into captivity. So he has to deal with him with wisdom because he don't want to get emotional. He don't want his family to get emotional more than they already because they're already starving. I mean, they already worried about their condition. If they realize that they brother is standing before them making a judgment, you know what I mean, and they're before they enemy, you know what I mean. Joseph could easily just watch his could be in a position where Pharaoh, you know what I mean, where he could just watch his family lose their life. You know what I mean, and then Joseph being a just man, he may stand up for his family, and then he could lose his life. He could lose his position. You know what I mean, so he has to deal with him with a certain amount of wisdom right now. Right, so he's dealing with him, and then after he deals with him, he turns away, and then he laments, he mourns for his family. All right, waya waya shab. Shab is a word that means return or shawab. Right, I believe. Let me check the concordance code. Shawab. Okay, shawab means to return, turn back, restore. All right, so he turned away, he wept, and then he returned. And so waya, wa means and, ya means he, shab means to return, or shawab is the long way to say it. But again, when you add prepositions, possessives, tenses, things like that, the extra, you know what I mean, the extra characters drop off just for simplicity to avoid redundancy. All right, so instead of shawab, you just say shab, right? And all hum, all means two, right? All means two, hum means them, to them. Wayad Dabar, and he talked. Dabar means to talk or to speak. Wayad Dabar. Dabar should be a what's it called? Dabar should be a sight word because we use it often. You know what I mean? It's in brothers' names. It's a it's a word that you see often in scriptures, especially in during feast days. When you read Leviticus 23, where you had the bar Yahweh al Mashan la Amar, right? So and Moses and the Most High spoke to Moses, saying, "You'll see that over and over. You'll see that over and over when the Most High dealing with prophets. So instead of saying Wayadabar Yahweh al Mashah, which means Moses, Mashah means Moses. Instead of saying Moses, you'll see Wayadabar al Wayadabar Yahweh al Danya Allah or Wayadabar Yahweh al Abraham. And the Lord spoke to Abraham, or Wayadabar al Nak, and the Lord spoke to Noah. I mean, you'll see things like that. But the bar should be a sight word, which means to speak or talk. And he talked al hum, all means two. Again, in the phrase I just said, Wayadabar al Mash, Yahweh al Mashah, Wayadabar Yahweh al Mashah, all means two. Wayadabar means and he spoke. Yahweh means the Most High. All means two, and then insert the prophet's name. So all, ah, and la, don't confuse it with Allah because it's spelled the same, but it's pronounced different. So all means two. All right. But that should also be another sight word, all. And then hum. All hum to them or with them. Right. Waya waya quack, another sight word. Quack. Quack. To or slack it. Took. Quack is took. You see that a lot as well. Waya quack. M- Ma'a, so like in ma a thumb. So ma from a thumb is them. Ma a thumb. Ath is a conjunction. It's a phrase. You click on the concordance code, and it's going to say it doesn't have a definition. Untranslatable mark of the accusative. Right. Not typically translated. Right. Used as a direct object marker. So it says there's no direct Greek equivalent to the Hebrew participle ath, but it's just used to connect one thing to another. Right. So that's what this is. And then Shamaiwan. Shamaiwan is connecting who was taken. So uh what's his name? Jacob or Joseph Slackett. Joseph took Shemaiwan. So that's what that oth is there for. It's connecting uh what Joseph took. So he took from them. The oth is telling you who is connecting you to who he took. Shemaiwan, which is one of the brothers. So he basically took Shemaiwan for collateral. So he told him, bring me Benjamin, bring me the youngest. You know what I mean? Uh, and until y'all get back, just to make sure that y'all don't run off on a plug, he took Shemaiwan for collateral. So Shemaiwan gonna hang back. He gonna sit in jail for a little bit, but he gonna kick back with me. Y'all go get Benjamin and then come back, and I'm gonna keep Simeon to make sure y'all don't run off. All right. While y'all Asar, or y'all Asar, Asar means to bind. Waya Asar, and he bound Afwa to him La Ayun Yahum. Now this could be a very intimidating phrase, but break it down. Right? Ayun is the root word. Just do it real quick. Ayun is a root word meaning eyes. That should be another root, or that should be another. What's it called? Uh, the hell of what the hell have I been saying this whole time? Sight word. Select it. Should be another sight word. Ayun means eye or eyes. Ayun is the root word. So la ayun means two eyes, right? And then yahum means there. Hum again, we've been seeing this a lot in this the verse that we were reading. Hum is a suffix like we saw on the board. Hum just means them, they, or their. So to their eyes. So what he did was he talked to them, right? So he turned away, wept, came back, uh, talked to them, and took from them Simeon and bound him in front of them before their eyes. Right. So that's what's happening. But all we're using is the same. Like again, I didn't pull any special knowledge. I didn't pull anything special. I just used the same thing that we've been using for the past couple. You know what I mean, for the past couple weeks. I just use the same concepts, the same method that we've been using. You know what I mean? You look at the phrase, you see if there's any preposition possessives, you look for a root word, especially sight words, and then you look for tenses. And then the prepositions and possessives are always on the board. The tenses should be in your notes, and then you use any concepts that we already went over to again, don't forget what you already know, trying to learn something new. And that's what kind of trips brothers up, where we trying to learn the Hebrew, but we forget what we already know about the Hebrew, trying to learn more Hebrew. You know what I mean? You're just using the same concepts. Now all you're doing is just building your vocabulary. Once you learn the concepts, once you learn the foundation, you know prepositions, you know possessives, you know your tenses, and then you participate while we going over these concepts. Or you could just ask, like, you know what I mean, if you want a class to be tailored around a particular concept, you could just ask, like, instead of reading through the Hebrew, In Bible Hub, you could just be like, can we go over the colors? Can we go over the shapes? Can we go over the body parts? Can we go over the preposition, the possessives? Can we go over the pictographs and the words that pertain to the pictographs? Can we go over some names? You can tailor the class to what you want to learn. You know what I mean, and that'll help you. That'll help you be able to build your vocabulary. That'll help you be able to participate more attentively. That'll help you be able to uh, retain some of these sight words that we've been going over. All right. But with that, we're gonna go ahead and close it right there. Uh, Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Uh, Let me throw water to your brothers and sisters to that participated. Make sure you leave some comments. You know what I mean? You might be watching this class a little late, but if you got any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the chat anyway. Especially your questions. Put your comments in anyway as well, but especially your questions, because if you got a question, I mean, I always go back into the class, look at questions, try to answer them on my next class. And also, of course, you know what I mean, if you got a question, you could just hit me directly. You could just hit that concordance code or no, I keep saying concordance code, that QR code in the corner as well. You know what I mean? If brothers is not available, or if you watching an older class, you can just scan the QR code and get in the WhatsApp chat. And if you got a question about something that you heard or read in class, then you can just ask it in that WhatsApp chat, and then we can get at you. You know what I mean? Morning, noon, or night. You know what I mean? 24 hours. Just put it in the chat. All right. But with that, say I Imadium, which means to stand. We give a courtesy to their brothers, the Israel Mad Shabbat, Imadium, Barak,
Yahweh Shim Yahweh Shah
Barakatah, Yadimata, Sar, we know courtesy to sisters, we courtesy to your sisters, but the Israel Mad Shabbat, Imadium, Barak, Yahweh Shim Yahweh Shah, Yadimata, class is